Stephen Hawking said recently, if there's time travel in the future, we're the tourist. One of the greatest draws into science fiction is time travel and the idea of a time machine. For hundreds of years, our greatest thinkers have pondered the question, is time travel possible? Imagine the possibilities if we can go back and forward in time and alter the world in ways that would have unforeseeable consequences. It could possibly fall into the classification of superweapon. So if any country on Earth had a time machine, would they tell anybody? Would we even know if history was being altered? This may seem like the kind of talk that would see the idea completely laughed at, but there have been attempts to develop time travel by the USA and China, to name a few. The idea and concept is allowed by the laws of physics, and that has led many to speculate that it may have already been done. Wait until you hear this one, guys. If we travel out into space at the speed of light, stop, and return to Earth, there is a very real chance that humanity will be extinct upon our return. Time relative to yourself would be maybe a few months, but on Earth, it would be hundreds of thousands of years. Doesn't that just blow your mind, or what? So you would have to think that there must be a better way to achieve this, right? If the technology exists within any of our world governments, then they are not telling anyone anytime soon. During World War II, an experiment took place in the US, which was codenamed the Philadelphia Experiment. The US Navy were trying to invent a cloaking device to render their ships invisible, but instead propelled the US Eldridge through space and time and embedded many of the sailors into the solid steel structure of the ship. Some sailors are even reported to have gotten completely lost in time and space. Crazy stuff, right? Nicolas Cage and Vladimir Putin are also alleged time travelers. Some spooky photos emerged on the internet showing the actor and the Russian leader apparently touring through time. What do you think of that? Science fiction and reality collide when we start finding proof suggesting that time travel is not only possible, but may already be happening. From John Titor to Leonardo da Vinci, history is replete with tales of superhuman knowledge and higher understandings in apparent attempts to influence history in some way. You could be forgiven for thinking that we are being subliminally told that this is already happening. There is, after all, a few things in the world that just seem suspiciously out of place. Would you agree? Traveling forward in time would be the easy part. Traveling back to where we started from will of course prove almost impossible. Even if we could time travel, it could prove devastating to human civilization as we know it. Would you be willing to step forward thousands of years? Building a planet to resemble the Earth in the past or future could prove less tricky. Time travel is only beyond our comprehension today because we only think of it tomorrow. Something like that anyway. Are there any examples of time travel that you guys can think of? We would love to hear of them, so please comment below. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and please share our videos.
Your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it. So make it a good one.
And they developed, by 1952, a flat screen, basically something like in the nature of a television screen, in which a past event was being shown. Ernetti used it to prove and to derive and show the world a missing stanza, historically missing stanza from a Roman play. And he also insisted until his death in 1994, as a very respected Catholic prelate, that they had also captured images of the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth. Now I know he was telling the truth because I saw a 20 to 30 minute 16mm film of the crucifixion of Jesus that was being played, that was being displayed at the Sandia National Labs in Sandia, New Mexico in the summer of 1972. Now, when we left that viewing, my dad was with his longtime friend Connie Chavez, a woman that at one point that he wanted to marry, and she was just in distress watching the crucifixion of Jesus as it really happened. Jesus was an historical personage, he was crucified, and everybody in that room knew it because it wasn't a dramatized rendering of the crucifixion. It was horrendously awful to watch in light of Jesus' suffering. And we could we could tell based on our understanding of the 3 New Testament accounts of the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth that it was a real event and not just some purported event. I mean, you have David Icke claiming that the Bible was scripted by the Piso family of Rome. You have people now in Eastern religions who have come out and tried to show that Jesus is just a recapitulation of a previous deity. My position is that what we were watching was a real crucifixion. Do I know it was Jesus? Well, 600 Caucasian men, roughly his age, were crucified by the Roman Empire within 3 years of his alleged death. It could have been somebody else, but everything that the New Testament depicts about the execution of Jesus of Nazareth was in that film. We saw women coming to pray beneath his cross. There were 2 other crucifixion victims behind him on hillsides. He had a crown of thorns that was almost like a motorcycle helmet in size around his head, and blood was pouring down his temples and into his eye sockets and then down his cheeks and into his corner of his mouth. He was very emaciated. He was about my height, which used to be 5'10", and looks like many of the medieval paintings of Jesus. The women were chased away by a Roman centurion. I saw Longinus, one of those centurions, jump up on his left, with his right leg and standing on his left leg, and extend his arm as far as he could, holding the end of a spear shaft, piercing Jesus in the side. That was a so-called spear of destiny, being used to release the fluids that had gathered in Jesus's chest, cavity. The sky grew dark at one point, so we knew it wasn't a dramatization. If it was somebody besides Jesus, how did so many of the details correspond to the New Testament accounts? There are 3 of them of his execution. The really incredible thing is not just seeing that, and as a Catholic Sunday school child being absolutely horrified by seeing the actual crucifixion of Jesus. Connie was just sort of squirming in her chair and not even most of the time able to look at the screen. At one point she actually put her hands and then looked a little bit past some of her fingers at what we were watching, which was horrific. I actually felt like evil was present in the room, like it was buzzing in the center of the room, like a hive of bumblebees or something. We get outside, and my dad says to Connie, I don't know why you're acting like that. And she said, what do you mean, Ray? They were crucifying my Lord. How was I supposed to respond? Connie Chavez was so devout that she spent her whole life helping the nuns at the San Felipe de Nero church there, that church that goes back to 1706, on the main square there in Old Town Albuquerque. It's actually older than the surrounding buildings, that church. But she was always doing things for the nuns. She was a devout believer. When they had my book and she learned she was going to die at age 53 of complications from diabetes, just 10 years in the future, she just expressed this almost visceral gasp as we were leaving a Chinese restaurant. Because my dad was showing her the year rather, and the condition under which she was going to die after double amputations of her legs from diabetes. And she just gasped with shock that she only had 10 years to live, and said, well, Ray, my faith is in Jesus Christ, and walked out of that restaurant. And that was a very vivid moment, and it really shows the measure of Connie Chavez's faith. But so my dad's saying something that's really preposterous. He's saying, I don't know why you were acting like that. She said, Ray, they were crucifying my Lord. And he said, but don't worry. She said, why not? He said, because my team also went to where Jesus was lying in the crypt, and we have the footage where 3 days later there's a flash of light in the crypt. 2 men appear. He didn't say angels. 2 men appear. Jesus stands up, and the 3 of them push the rock away, and he walks out of his crypt. Okay, so and Connie and I were obviously very astonished. And she said, what are you saying, Ray? And he said, we also have footage of the resurrection. Now, I don't say that as a former Catholic to advocate Catholicism or any religion. I'm just reporting what happened. What happened is my father stated they had footage of the resurrection.